Well, it's good to get out underway. This first acclimation period is still just that, getting used to pads and on-field practices, and different than our training program. So involves a lot more communication, play calling, adjustments, things like that, as opposed to just running training conditioning like we've been doing up until this week. So long way to go, but good to be underway. Weather's been very cool. Need some heat. Need some hopefully training weather. Hopefully that'll be coming soon. I've heard a lot about this hot North Carolina weather. Still waiting to see it. But as far as players go, again, a lot of new faces, a lot of evaluation, just trying to figure out who can do what, and how we can, get our best players on the field and help them, whether they're new here as freshmen or whether they're new as transfers, talking to them about things that our fundamentals, our calls, our adjustments, things like that are different from what they've done in the past. So making progress, just taking it one day at a time, and grinding it out here through training camp, which is what we need to do. This is what we need, just day after day, just good fundamentals, and just try to keep moving ahead in the right direction.
Andrew Jones, Tar Heel 24/7. There's a lot of new faces up front defensively. Only two guys really back from last year. Only one of them played a couple of snaps. What have you seen from that group, and what is the competition like for all the jockeying to see who can kind of get first, depth chart, first team, second team, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think whether it's that position or any of the position, the depth chart's really a work in progress. Again, we're in the acclimation period. Of course, we're trying to evaluate, but we're not really able to do full practices and tackling and all that. We're still acclimating. So we're not far from that, but the teaching and the big part is so everybody knows what to do, they know how to do it, and they're ready to go out there and compete. And when the competition starts later in the week and next week, then those things will start to shape up, especially at that position. The receivers and the DBs, where there's less contact involved, maybe a little more competitive there in terms of who can get open, who can cover, and so forth. But for the big guys, those skills will really be evaluated much more closely once we're actually able to do them, and also make sure that everybody knows what they're doing.
If I can do a quick follow on that. Obviously, you guys are going to hit soon. What about DeAndre Robinson? What are you guys seeing from him? What did you like about him that you brought him in? And is he somebody that has an opportunity to get on the field a lot this year?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd say everybody has an opportunity, but he certainly would be, up on that list. Played some last year at Florida, athlete kid, smart, has good football instincts, and again, it's just acclimating to a new system, some new terminology and adjustments, things like that. But I'm sure he'll be very competitive with that group, and we have other players there too. The best guys will play, but he should be very competitive in that group. He's a big guy, can run, he's young, there's a lot of room for growth and improvement. So I'm glad we have him, good to be working with him.
Right here in front center.
Rod Baxley, Fayetteville Observer. Bill, how do you describe the impact Moses Cabrera's had on your career, and how that's translated to here at Carolina with these guys?
Yeah, Moses had a huge impact on my career and on the teams that I've coached, where he's been the head strength coach. He's done a great job of training players and also getting them back on the field after they've had some type of medical setback. He's worked with several thousand players and is able to train them regardless of what limitations they might have. He has multiple ways to do different exercises and so forth. So we're able to train all parts of the body, and he's increased speed, strength, explosiveness, as well as I think this team has started to develop good chemistry. And a lot of that comes from the weight room and from their training together, where you start to earn the respect of your teammates through hard work together, and that's brought the team. I wouldn't say we're there yet, but certainly moving in the right direction in terms of team chemistry and developing a closeness and respect for each other. So everybody's out there working hard, they're going through it, grinding through it together, and they're the guys who are maybe further along are helping some of the guys that might lag behind a little bit, and that's good for again teamwork and bring the team forward.
On the right, Brian.
Brian Murphy with WRL. Your dad was a coach, you're a coach, obviously your two sons are on the staff. Was there ever a fan thought that they would do something different than coach? And how did they get into it? And then, obviously Steve, we're going to get a chance to talk to him later today. What about his development as a defensive coach, has given you the trust that he can run this team?
Right. Well, so I think you'd have to ask them about what their other maybe aspirations were outside of football. But both of them, kind of like me, but really both of them have been in pro football literally their whole lives. From when they were 11, 12, 13, they would hang around and do things, and then eventually were like ball boys, and then would break down film, and then would help do different things for whether it was Josh McDaniels or Matt Patricia or Brian Flores, people like that. And then they eventually, Stephen before Brian, but were quality control type coaches on the staff, and then work their way up. So that's something that I never tried to push them into. It's something that they wanted to do, but they've been around it their whole lives. Stephen sat in on captains meetings every week, and Brian would sit in on the quarterback meetings and things like that. So it wasn't just the team; it was also, some of the interactions that you have with different groups of players, and the feedback that would come from those players, not just the coaching, but also players giving feedback, to the coach. So. I learned a lot from being around my dad. A lot of it was just from like osmosis. It's not like instruction. You just live it, and you hear things, and you start to put it together, and things like that, so forth. And I'm sure some of that was true for them. But when in 2000, at the end of the 18, 19, in there, 19, 20. And so forth, and is when Stephen took a bigger role and then started calling the defenses, and I think it was 20. And I've had a lot of confidence in him doing that. I think he's done a great job of preparing the defenses, and then also having a good feel for play calling and when to call things. It's not just what the defense is; it's kind of the timing of when to call it, how to set things up, and things like that. He does a really good job of taking input as Brian does, take input from the players. If they're not confident in it and they're not comfortable in it, then we probably don't want to run it. Let's find something else that we all feel, good about, and work to get the things we don't feel good about right before we actually run them. So, I think he's very in tune to what the players are comfortable with, and how they can manipulate and control the scheme or adjustments within the scheme that we have. And that's a skill, one that comes with experience, but I think that's something that I learned a lot at New York from Coach Parcells when I became the defensive coordinator, is understanding what the players can do and how confident they are in doing it. Those things really work out a lot better than some brainstorm that you as a coach have that they don't either fully understand or buy into. Even though it might look good on paper, if they don't like to do it or don't feel confident doing it, then it doesn't usually work out so well.
On the right, again.
Hi, Bill. Ashley Rowe with WRL. We know that the NFL is such a business. How did the business side of the league help better prepare you for the evolving business landscape of college football, NIL and revenue share?
Yeah, very much. We dealt with it literally every year since whenever 93 or whenever free agency started, so called the last 30 years. When Mike and I worked together in Cleveland, was when free agency started, Reggie White, guys like that, and it's just continued through there. So dealing with the revenue share, the NIL packages, agents, if you will, representatives for players, all those kind of things. That's the life we've lived, so we're very comfortable with that. We don't have an unlimited amount of money, which we didn't have in the NFL either, and so you have to figure out how to distribute it and how to, I won't say negotiate, but let's say negotiate and also manage the assets and the resources that you have, which are good here at Carolina, but again, they're not, it's not like we have a blank checkbook, nor does any other team. So management of the team, the players, the salaries or the payments that they get and so forth are, again, something that we've dealt with for a long time, and you have to value certain players in certain positions in order to afford to put together a good team.
Quick follow-up on that, how much of your day is spent working on those dollars and cents and figuring out those numbers?
Yeah, not too much of my day, probably most of Mike's day. We've talked about it in general terms of how we want to do things, but really Mike handles the day-to-day application of those. And again, because there isn't a strict reporting process like there is in the NFL, where literally every day, every contract gets reported, it gets adjusted, and being in compliance with the cap and so forth and so on. It's much more. There's a lot more, I would say, detail and transactional. Here, you can do it. There's no, you just have to do it. There's no, set. There's obviously a revenue share limit, but there's different ways to handle the money and the payments and so forth, where it's not quite as structured as what it was in the NFL. So Mike's very good at that in terms of being creative and trying to work out something that works for us and works for the student athlete as well. So he's done a great job of handling that, and of course, when you deal in this type of world, you have other agents and representatives trying to do the best for the players, and you have to kind of figure out what you're comfortable with, and at some point, if players offer more somewhere else, do you want to be in that market, or do you want to let that market go and take a player from the market that you want to be in? Those type of things. Mike really does most of that.
Back left.
Bill, Ted Keefe, the Sports Business Journal, sort of following up on that. College football coaches have traditionally been thought of as a CEO, sort of having a CEO role, overseeing all aspects of the program, not just players and coaching and whatever. I know you have Mike here, who's been a longtime guy for several decades. Have you been interested, comfortable in having that role as sort of the overseer of all aspects on and off the field of the program as Carolina sort of transforms, whether it's venues or protocol, how they do things? Do you want to have a role in those sort of off-field business aspects, or have you left that stuff to Mike? If you are involved in it, what are sort of the things that you're focused on even throughout the offseason?
It's pretty much the same for me as it's always been, whether it was Mike and I in Cleveland, or Scott Pioli, or Nick Caserio, or whoever the other person was that we worked jointly together. I did the majority of the coaching, but there was certainly feedback from Mike or Nick or people like that. Here's what I'm seeing. Are we using this player properly? Do we want to do this with this? They have a little different view of it than sometimes as a coach. You're in it, and you miss things, and so those guys gave me a good perspective sometimes on coaching, how to utilize players, maybe where they saw competition a little bit differently than where I or the coaching staff saw it. And at the same time, I would talk with Mike and our contract negotiators in the NFL, but now it's really just through Mike about how we want to structure our deals and payments and so forth on a big picture, and then he does it. So there's definitely a good line of communication, and I'd say we jointly make big decisions together, and then I kind of handle the coaching part of it, and Mike kind of handles the personnel, the contracts, and other things that go with that. In this case, academics and some transfer rules and things like that apply specifically to recruiting and roster size and payments and so forth. Whereas I focus more on the coaching part of it. But again, it's intertwined, and he's been very helpful to me in my career, especially when he came to New England. Like after we had 10 years of championships and Super Bowl appearances and everything, when he got there for 14 and 16, like that was, really kind of propelled us into Super Bowl championships instead of just, AFC East titles and AFC, that type of thing. Like there was some finding a few players and also kind of helping me build the roster so that we could, win and be more competitive in those final games. Like he had a lot to do with that. So there's, it's very much of a partnership, but at the same time, we both kind of have the areas that we focus
got time for two more on the left, and then we're going to go in the back here. Go ahead.
Adam Smith, Inside Carolina. How you doing, Bill? To follow up on what you were talking about, the acclimation period, specifically with the D line, is that position because you're not tackling every day, and that it's not a true game-like condition with every drill you're doing? Like, is that the position that's the most difficult to get a read on at this stage of camp?
That and O-line, yeah. O-line, D-line, yeah. Because, again, that's their game. It's contact, it's leverage, it's, footwork position. And I mean, these guys line up this far away from each other, and it all happens pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And without pads and without, full contact, it's kind of hard to see exactly how that's going to go until you get to that point. Again, with receivers, defensive backs, things like that, you don't have that kind of, those kind of collisions. That the power is not as, power can neutralize speed, speed can offset power. There is certainly there's a better evaluation of that than there is with the big guys. And again, so much of interior offensive and defensive line play is based on pad level and leverage. And until you actually are going, it's kind of hard to tell exactly how it's going to turn out. Once everything is on, then it's a lot easier to see. So the defensive line and the offensive line those are hard positions to train in the off season. You train strength, you train explosion, you learn the plays, you get in condition and all that, but you can't actually do what you have to do against your opponent, in this case ourselves, until you get past the acclimation period in training camp, or for the 13 practices in spring ball. You can hit bags and you can hit sleds and you can do all those kind of things. It's good teaching and it prepares you for it, but it's not the same thing. So once we get to that point, then that'll help us. And I'm sure as we go through the course of the year that, we'll continue to improve in those areas. It doesn't just stop at the end of training camp. It'll continue, literally, hopefully, every week throughout the season that we can refine our techniques, our fundamentals, our reaction, our recognition. Again, when you line up this far away from somebody, how quickly you can react to it is the difference between, having an advantage or not having an advantage and being in a recovery position. So that initial first step, first strike, again, pad level on the contact, all those kind of things, footwork, it's a fine line between having the advantage and being in a position where you're trying to recover. And that's what we want to try to do is gain the advantage and maintain it.
Last one, back middle.
Kate Robinson, ABC 11 coach. You mentioned there's a lot of new faces, some new players. As you're in the acclimation period, someone's going to be football-wise, but have anyone really emerged or surprised you, personality, local leaders? I mean, it's not
I'd say it's a process, but yes, absolutely. Certainly some of the players who have more experience have more confidence, whether it be from their time here at Carolina or in some cases with other programs that have played a lot of college football, and so they're confident in what they can do and what things are going to be like. Sure, there's some newness to it, but compared to a freshman who's coming in here who's never played in a college game, has only been now in a couple of college practices, has never gone up against this type of competition, compared to in high school when they were probably just, they were probably better than everybody else. Well, that's not necessarily the case now. In most cases, I would say it definitely isn't the case. So you go from being the best guy to now not the best guy anymore. The emergence usually comes from the more experienced players and the players, who have the most confidence. But a lot of these guys are gaining confidence as they start to have success on the field, and so it's a little bit of a fluid situation. We'll see how it all comes out. There are certain positions, the defensive signal callers, quarterbacks, centers, guys in the middle of the field, safeties, that control the communication on the other, to the extremities. And so a lot of times they emerge as leaders because they have to communicate to get the message to people outside of the formation. So there's a natural leadership that comes with some of those positions. Some guys are, have different skills in that area. And there's also, leadership. There's on-field leadership, and I'd say there's off-field leadership. Some players are are particularly good leaders on the field in terms of being aggressive and decisive, and on a football context, some players are good leaders off the field in terms of preparation, training, things like that, and some are good at both. So it's also a little bit of a, what are you talking about? You're talking about leader in the weight room, leader on the field, leader in the classroom, film study, leader in kind of personal life, whether that be Bible study or things like that. And so there's different forms of leadership, and they're all starting to unfold. And we've only been doing it here a few days here, so we'll see how it all comes together. But yeah, we have a lot of players who are very capable in those areas, and I think in a way we're all kind of trying to find out exactly how I'm gonna fit, and how you're gonna fit, and how it's all gonna work together. It's come together in a positive way, but I'd say hasn't been defined yet. Good question, great question, it's interesting.
Thanks, guys.
You got it.
Thanks